Okay, and this is Chapter 10, Behavioral Medicine for Foundations. I'm going to try this recording without my webcam on and see what everyone thinks. I was distracted with seeing myself in the corner, but if you prefer, I think some students want me to be in the video because it's helpful for them. We'll see how it goes, but this is a great chapter. It's a little bit longer than Chapter 7. I don't need you to know the end of Chapter 7 either, just being aware of managed care. But Chapter 10, all of the information is really good. And it's really starting to talk about this integrated model of care, how behavioral medicine has morphed into kind of biopsychosocial model, and how we know now that everything is integrated and the physical and mortality is connected to mental illness. We know there's a high comorbidity, which means connection, research connection, linkage from physical illness and mental illness. Clinical mental health and primary care hospitalization are integrating. Because of this, we now know that mental illness is paramount in treating physical illness. There are multiple examples of this, like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, substance abuse, etc. And there are multiple factors that interplay here into this model that you know that everything is connected. We're going to start by reviewing case 10.1 in Chapter 10. And I believe we're going to do that on here, and then we can talk more about it when we meet next week. And this is the case of Sarah. Sarah is a 55-year-old Caucasian female who identifies as lower middle class. She's recently widowed, has no children, and lives alone. She reports her major problem as feeling depressed all the time. During the third counseling session, she reports that her husband died a few years ago in a tragic car accident. Over the years, Sarah has gained a significant amount of weight that results in her using a wheelchair. She's not in it all the time, though. She's diagnosed clinically as obese and has other health-related illnesses such as body pains and aches, headaches, low energy, and loss of interest in activities. Those were not present prior to the death of her husband. During the initial patient interview, Sarah disclosed that she has a family history of diabetes, obesity, and other heart-related issues. Sarah and her counselor, Bennett, collaboratively established goals of managing her weight, increasing her physical activity, and improving her mood. Bennett worked with Sarah for 1 year on a variety of personal issues, including developing a diet and exercise regimen and managing her depression. Sarah also met with a psychiatrist and primary care physician to manage her symptoms of depression and address medical concerns. Sarah is very sensitive about her weight. Thus, the suggestion that she exercise and better manage her diet was met with resistance. So Bennett had to approach her in a unique way. He started with education on healthy eating does not mean tasteless eating. He went grocery shopping with Sarah, taking note of how she shopped and what she bought. He observed how Sarah doctored up her coffee before their sessions. He noted times when she was walked instead of a wheelchair. He learned her habits, offered simple suggestions such as milk versus heavy cream and sugar substitute instead of sugar. On their shopping trips, they suggested fresh fruits and vegetables instead of frozen, so she would be walking and not going to the microwave and just pushing a button. They went on walks together and got her out of the office and saw her starting to change. At the end of their counseling relationship, Sarah was down 15 pounds, cooked most of her meals using fresh ingredients, relied less on her wheelchair, and reported feeling significantly less depressed. Sarah has a long road ahead of her, but these small changes in behavior have impacted her physical health, but also her mental well-being. So that's a case we're going to talk about throughout the chapter. But you see how all of that's integrated and how we, in lifespan development, I will teach you about this, but how we as therapists, we're really an integrated model of care now. We're not just mental health because we have to be every piece of this puzzle. And we often are the ones to put this puzzle together. The behavioral medicine approach current definition is the interdisciplinary field concerned with the development and integration of psychosocial, behavioral, and biomedical knowledge relevant to the health and illness and application of this knowledge to prevention, etiology, diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation. You see how this works with substance abuse and obesity. If you have a substance abuse client who comes in, they may need medication. They may need medication assistance to come off heroin. You may need a medical detox facility. You need a psychiatrist. You need detox. You need a referring psychiatrist for medication management. You may need drug testing, outpatient substance abuse treatment. You may need inpatient substance abuse treatment. You need a primary care doctor for a physical check. You're going to need behavioral health for counseling. You're going to need AA and NA support. And that is an integrated approach, an integrated model. It leads to this biopsychosocial model that we've already been discussing right here. In the biopsychosocial model, we know that which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't always know. But these three interacting factors kind of provide a theoretical framework to help us understand how illnesses take place. And if we just look at the bio, just look at the psycho, just look at the social, we're missing the big picture for the cases that we work with. Look at the way that these interact and look where they overlap and how much each one of these are intertwined. I once did a presentation for an endocrine facility, endocrine doctor, my endocrinologist, because the endocrine system is the stress response system, diabetes and thyroid issues. I have a thyroid disorder. And I went in and did a talk about the impact of stressful life events and adverse childhood experiences and long-term adverse consequences on health. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute, but they're all connected. And we know a lot of times when we heal trauma, then the biological issues go away. The working out is easier. The healthier lifestyle is easier when you heal the trauma because you feel better about you. And then you can acquiesce to a treatment plan that's more biological in nature. Losing weight, being less stressed, learning coping mechanisms so then that you're not getting into fight or flight and you're not having a panic attack and you're not going into cortisol release and expanding your window of stress tolerance. So now we have this model that we work from, and I love this text because this is really what I see in private practice. This is where we are. I often run integration of treatment care through the Veal Group. I track clients. We're in a rural area. We don't have the luxury of being in a fully integrated system where we're all in-house. That would be a beautiful thing. But we have several pieces we have to refer to, right? I have to refer. So for let's take this case of Sarah. I may be seeing Sarah for counseling. I would probably need a psychiatrist for medication for Sarah. I would need a physician, nutritionist to help Sarah because I can do those things and help reinforce. I can do psychoed, but I am not a medical doctor. I can't manage her diabetes. I can't check her weight. That's not appropriate for me to be doing unless I'm actually working in a facility where that's my job. But I would be working on her mental health. And so all those other agencies will be referrals here. We would need releases, and I would be kind of monitoring her care throughout, making sure she's seeing her doctors, making sure she's taking her meds, just looking for compliance and looking for ways that I can help her to be successful with her goals. And what are the barriers, identifying those and looking for ways to help her. Places where you have a fully integrated facility where everyone's under one roof would be something like Pathways or East Alabama Mental Health, just to help you conceptualize what that looks like or what that means. If you go to Pathways, they have kind of everything there. They have clinicians, they have social workers, they have a hospitalization unit, they have severe mental illness, they have a psychiatrist where they can give you medication. They have group counseling, they have substance abuse counseling, so nurses. So you can say, okay, go to building B and C, go to building C. Now, that is community mental health, so there are caveats to that because there's obviously some negative things about behavioral health, community behavioral health, meaning they're swamped and underpaid, and they don't have the resources they need. But everything's kind of in one facility versus my private practice where I'm referring here, 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 and here, and trying to collaborate. And you can see where problems come up with that, because what if someone doesn't logistically can't get there, or there's insurance issues, or they don't have insurance? And so integrated care treatment can be difficult at times. I think I've already talked about this, but like in our case that we're talking about as throughout this presentation, obesity and diabetes have a behavioral health linkage. There's risk factors such as smoking, being sedentary, substances, alcohol usage, and poor socioeconomic level. And that brings me to this next thing. Has anyone, my meeting started. I have 10 minutes. I'm not getting on yet. Who's heard of Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or ACEs? And I know you can't respond to me, but ACEs is a study done by Kaiser Permanente. It was a longitudinal study done for about 20 years with about 18,000 as the sample, 17,000 and change or something like that, where they followed people over the course of their lifetime and collected data. And interestingly enough, it has been groundbreaking for those of us in the field to be able to pinpoint really what is going on. And what is going on is accumulation of adverse childhood experiences has a dose-response relationship with later health, psychological, physical, and mental issues. So 4 or more of these adverse childhood experiences gives you a 60% chance of having a serious mental health issue, serious physical issue, serious social problems. So, diabetes, all of this is comorbid. These are connected. And I love that. That makes so much sense, right? Okay, well, if I grow up in trauma and I'm in fight or flight, you just may see some of this annoying behavior that I have, right? Like I'm not doing well in school, and maybe I'm defiant, and maybe I'm only eating hot dogs every night, and you don't know what else is going on, right? The rest of the story is, nobody's home at night. I don't have nutrition. I don't have support. No one's taking care of me. So the larger part of what we do and the larger part of the story is often what is beyond and under that iceberg. So this story, this study is profound for us because, like I said, the researchers found this great relationship between the childhood exposure to trauma and adult health risk behaviors and diseases. So higher suicidality, higher heart disease, higher diabetes. So this all plays in. This is something I added in just because it helps you synthesize why this is so critical for you to understand and how much of a role you will take in the future. This is why I know that our field is secure, because we are finding out most diseases related to mental health and trauma. So if you have 4 or more categories of childhood exposure, one's divorce, parent with a mental illness, parent who hit you, a parent who was emotionally abusive, if you have any of those, you increase your chances for problems like drug abuse, depression. But if you have 4 of those, if you identify 4 in the ACEs, and we'll look at this when we come back together, you can Google it or we can look at it next week, but it's a 1-page checklist. If you have 4 of those, there's a 12-fold increase just from having 4 of all of those right there. Alcoholism, drug abuse, depression, and suicide. So it really kind of ties everything together for you and gets you to understand what this integrated model of care is. Now, once you start counseling people and you meet with people, no matter what type of care you're in, when you start practicum, we already know the first and foremost thing that's most important is your alliance, your rapport, your relationship with your client. Client-centered rapport is key. And you're going to interview your client. You're going to do your basic interview, your basic intake with them. And that's going to be where you use those skills that you're learning in your other class with Dr. Powers and Dr. Miller. And you already know, but those skills are things like active listening. You're not just zoning out. You're actively listening to your client with nonverbal communication, facial expressions. You're reflecting content. We started talking about motivational interviewing. That's a therapeutic, that's a theory that's person-centered, that has the acronym OARS, open-ended, affirmation, reflections, summarizations. That's here, showing empathy. These are Rogerian techniques. Those open-ended questions where you're not a yes, no, and you're not asking a closed-ended question. So this is a great review in chapter 10 of just reminding you of the process and the beginning part of therapy. Those nonverbals, your tone, your stance, your facial expression, being open so that your client feels heard and they feel supported when you're there. And then you have your stages and processes of the client interview. And that is how you conceptualize your treatment planning, etc. And then that trans-theoretical model of change is something we talked about with motivational interviewing. We're going to talk about that. I don't think I have anything else for y'all. There was no point in putting slides for that. That's just a quick review. You're going to get that in all your classes, and we're going to have some fun with that and just review that when we meet back together. These were 2 easy chapters, easy to read, good information. Yes, and this is, I think, the end of this PowerPoint. So you've only had about, hopefully, 40 minutes to listen to me.